Hi, Chris, aka Zonproof here, and I would like to discuss the first half of the first season of the Halo TV series on Paramount Plus. It's been an interesting ride so far, and we finally got a real big Halo set piece battle. Something that honestly I've been kind of waiting for ever since the first 20 minutes of the beginning of the first episode. We just haven't really gotten that level of combat yet. So now that we're kind of getting a feel for what this show could possibly be, let's look at the individual pieces and the stories and the changes from the from between the TV show and the video games themselves. I mean, right before the series came out, they confirmed what we probably already assumed, at least I hope most of you did, that the TV show and the game are existing in two separate universes. I know for some people they were disappointed, but they kind of have to do that. The Master Chief as a character from the games would make a very boring TV character to watch. Don't forget, predominantly, he just talks to a voice inside his helmet the whole game. He occasionally interacts with outside forces, but not very often. You just can't really get excited for that kind of show. It would be very boring to just sit there and watch him walk from A to B. Which is why when they cast Pablo Schreiber to be Master Chief, it was pretty obvious that the helmet was going to come off, which I will say I appreciate. Episode 1, they did it. It would have been a waste of time to wait past that point. And frankly, he's Pablo Schreiber's been doing a pretty good job as the Master Chief. I like the way he carries himself. He's 6 feet 5 inches, if I remember correctly, so he towers over almost everybody. And most of the Spartan cast is the same way. They cast taller actors and actresses, and they look like Spartans. I really do get that feeling for them. There's the weird subplot of taking out their little emotion control chip, which I will discuss it in a little bit. I think it's leading into probably more so the next season than a whole lot going on this season, but we'll tap onto that shortly. Let's go through some of the rest of the cast. I really, I mean, predominantly they're all pretty good actors. They've all done pretty well. Some of them are even recognizable. I will say, for as much as I'm not big on shows making massive adjustments to please enraged fans, I really like Jen Taylor being Cortana. One, she's a voice actress, which means she already knows how to do those kind of roles, whereas more traditional, where not traditional, bad choice of words, where actual film and TV actors and actresses tend to struggle. They don't have the best inflection because they don't have anything to play off of. They're used to being able to play off of other people. So the voice acting always feels slightly flat. Jen Taylor, as always, has been crushing it as Cortana. And you could actually feel that little bit of progression from her being a brand new AI to getting into some of that snarkier attitudes that Cortana has and we're more used to. Speaking of Cortana, I'm actually approve of her. I like her actual design. I like the more realistic take on it. The Cortana from the games is based off an OG Xbox 3D model, and it's been just updated for the technology as we progress. But we have seen other AIs in the Halo universe have a more natural look to them, just in an AI form, generally smaller than what we've been seeing of the TV shows Cortana. But again, this is about having that sense of scale. In a TV show where he's not really on a ship a whole lot, there's very few like stands to kind of prop her up onto. She's predominantly just been in a very natural world. Same thing with how they've connected her to the Master Chief. In the game series, it's the little slot in the back of his helmet. And since the helmet never takes off, he can always interact with her. Now he's in the show implanted directly into him. Again, it kind of makes sense for the universe they're building. They want the armor to be able to come off, but they need Cortana to always still be a part of him. This way they've made it. you can kind of question it from a storytelling standpoint, but again, I can they're so inseparable of a concept that like it's part of why Halo Infinite feels a little weird, but it helps explain it keeps that kind of coherency together. It would feel very unnatural to have them separated. Um, the rest of his crew, I'm very intrigued by. The one that kind of is been a little interesting, and I'm trying to remember her name because there are too many Spartans, and no offense to the Spartans, their names are not super memorable. But it's Kai. She's also taken out her control chip, and I'm kind of trying to get the point of what benefit does that have for the story, um, and I haven't gotten there yet. And the otherwise, the rest of the casting I think is really good. I will say, even though I have not figured out the point of the plot line at all, every time I could see Burn Gorman on a screen, I'm always going to be for it. He's just always does that really good bad guy or really good scientist. Like pretty much everything he's been in, I've been a fan of. It's really you just waiting for his character to get killed off because you know it's going to happen. But excited to see him again. I just don't understand what that whole insurrectionist plot line is supposed to do because we have the character of Kwan Habu, who's the daughter of an insurrectionist general who was killed off in the first episode. I understand that she was an easy factor to kind of create some drama around the Master Chief taking off his helmet so they can have a connection. But at this point, I can't figure out what her character serves in the story. We have this whole subplot of them originally her trying to partner up with getting back into the insurrection. Now that's been discarded for her trying. I don't know what their plot line is going to what the direction is going to go. I feel like she's the one that's logically going to end up killing Burn Gorman, but what's the point? Unless Madrigal has some level of importance on the whole plot that we haven't gotten to, other than it's where the keystone was found. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. That's honestly my biggest detraction uh, from the series is this plot line that I don't see where it's going. The rest of it feels it's been very slow. Originally, the series was announced to have 10 episodes, and it was cut down to 9. A small part of me wonders maybe it was cut down to 9 because they just didn't need it. And honestly, it probably feels like it could have chopped a couple more episodes off. Um, I think I understand what they're trying to set up. A lot of the early plot points, aside from the introducing Forerunner tech a little bit earlier than we really got the experience of in the Halo series, at least as far as I can tell. For the record, I've played all the video games, every single one, even the Spartan Assault games. I have not played. I've read like 4 of the books, and that's about it. I haven't read too deep into them. I think let's see, the Fall of Reach, First Strike. I think I read the Ghost of Onyx, but it's been so long I don't really remember. And I read the Cold Protocol because I was intrigued in the story behind it all. I haven't read anything else. So if there's any connections humanity has had to Forerunner tech before the Halo game, the first Halo game, I don't really know it. So aside from introducing that earlier, my current theory is they're introducing Catherine Halsey's the horrible things she did to create the Spartans. Um, Again, it's something the fans kind of already know, which the series, I guess, could be used to introduce new people to Halo. I don't feel like that's really the point. I mean, one, the show's way too violent, so you can't just introduce it to anybody. And frankly, don't tone down the violence. The violence really works for it, weirdly. Um, but if it, the, other than that, the only reason it serves is to create this level of distrust in the system on the side of Master Chief, which the only way I can see that plot thread going is over to season two, which has already been confirmed is going to be happening. Um, just to get this out of the way, my current theory, and I'm more than happy, like, I want this on the web. I like having a static record of this, of how this season will end, is either it's going to end with an actual shot of the Halo ring, with, or it's going to end with them getting to Halo directly. Um, the show is called Halo, and I can't imagine the writers and the showrunners, producers don't actually realize that you need to have a Halo to kind of fulfill the title of the show. So, and I feels like it makes sense that that's where the first season will end, and then the second season will probably lead into more closer to the events of the Halo game. Though I feel like it's not going to be Pillar of Autumn crashing on the Halo ring. It's going to be more of a direct warfare between the UNSC and the Covenant, um, in which the in which it's going to be like Master Chief will realize he can't really trust the UNSC to use this thing for the right purposes, or they'll end up using it and destroying a lot of people. So he has to blow it up. That'll be the main motivating factor. If I'm right, cool. If I'm wrong, whatever. It just feels like the logical plot line they're trying to walk us to right now. But, anyways, that's a digression from the quality of the first season. It's really a long story to say we're getting a lot of exposition to set up things, I believe, further down the road. Meh. It's why the first episode was kind of interesting, though left in a really weird spot because your brain still connects to the games more than it accepts that this is a separate Halo universe. Episode 5 finally feels like we're picking things up a bit, and maybe that's just because we've had a big battle, which was just like, I do appreciate they're going full bore. Watching, it would have been very easy to have Needler pins up the gunner, and then it explodes to knock him off. But instead, they literally had him explode into red vapor. Good choice. I liked it. I appreciate them not shying away from the horrors of this whole thing. And you really get that sense of conflict. And then the episode ends in a spot that I really didn't expect it. And probably the one storyline I understand why. I just really wish they wouldn't. And that's this Mackie character who isn't. My feeling is she's meant to be that person to give us an understanding of the Covenant side of everything. Like not to really like identify with them, but to give us that viewpoint from a perspective we could understand, which I think is insanely unnecessary. There's nothing there that we really need to. We couldn't just have with the cutscenes like we did in the second Halo game, because obviously we knew her storyline would collide with Master Chief. There's a small part of me that is worried that they're going to find some way to shoehorn that they know each other from something in the past. Please, I hope not. But I don't know what her character really could truly serve the story other than she's the human perspective of the Covenant side. Meh. I will say the scene of her and the Hunter taking over the UNSC bridge with the Hunter breaking itself down into the individual worms is probably one of the most like utterly terrifying things I'd ever seen, and something I kind of had always hoped the Halo series would approach. Like the Hunters are not solid beings; they're a bunch of individual worms that work together as a hive mind. Man, it would be really terrifying if they tried to attack me on their own. And in the games, I get it. It doesn't make a ton of sense to do it because you already have the Flood that kind of that handles that kind of attack pattern. In the show, I'm assuming we'll see the Flood next season. I really don't think we'll get to them this season, and that's for the best. So, it's a great introduction to that kind of horror, and to kind of gauge how people react to it, which can hopefully can benefit the production. Um, but yeah, in all, I honestly, if you asked me at the beginning of the week when I was thinking about doing this video, I was really ready to say the series is just kind of meh. Um, a- really complaining about the utter lack of what works for Halo, which is the fights. People fans go to Halo for the really, especially the early games. It was the well crafted fights with the Covenant. Um, we could discuss the later games, but this didn't really seem to be going in that direction. It really seemed to be more of the science approach than the military. You know, the military was the motivating force for the science, which, eh. But now I'm hoping the story's going to pick up a little bit more since they're intersecting. We do only have a handful of episodes left. Well, only 4 episodes left. Math took way too long in my head. So hopefully we'll get more and more into the conflict. Hopefully we get a spaceship fight in here at some point because sorry, that's a really big thing for me. I want to see those starships fight. I get why the Halo games don't do it a whole lot, but the Halo shows get us in there. Um, so in all, I feel like it has the chance to get better here. I would love to know what the hell is going on with the insurrectionist and the um, Bokeem Woodbines, the Spartan deserter. There it is. What their whole plot line is supposed to lead to. I don't think it's supposed to lead into a full insurrection against the UNSC because it just. What does that do for the plot? Like, where does that really build and where can that possibly go? So either bring them into the fold or just ditch them. Like, eh. Maybe I'm wondering if Madrigal could be a planet that ends up getting glassed. We haven't seen that yet, and that's possible. Um, otherwise, yeah, it's a stark departure from the series, but it's what the game series, but it's what needed to happen. You can't follow the game series and have an entertaining product. Do I think it was necessary to make in the first place? No, not really. When they originally announced the Halo movie back in like 2006 with Peter Jackson, I was super excited. I We got Halo Landfall. Video game graphics were still, they looked good, but they weren't great. And yeah, I wanted to see something live action that looked really good. Seriously, if you have not seen Halo Landfall, I'll link it in the comment section below if I can find a good copy for it. But otherwise, just do a search for it. It's directed by Neil Bouchamp, who would have been the director of Peter Jackson's Halo movie before he did District 9. And it is really, really good. Especially for just something that it's meant to be an ad for Halo 3 and kind of that lead in for Halo 3. You got to see a warthog running. You got to see all the, well before the TV show was even a remote idea. Like, they showed us that this stuff could work. Weta built a warthog back in 2006, which is just super cool. So it's interesting. At this point, though, I don't really care. The video game graphics have caught up enough that I've had my fill of what that could perceivably look like. And yeah, I mean, they're better than the show is better than I expected it to be. I want to definitively state that. Does the show need to exist? No, not really. Am I going to keep watching it? Yeah, I'll probably watch it through to the end, and I'll probably resubscribe when the second season comes out. But is this an absolute must-watch for Halo fans? For Halo fans, maybe. If nothing else, it's kind of intriguing to see how the characters they know, who generally have the same mindsets as the original characters in which they're based, would act in a different situation if things were slightly different. But at the same time, people don't really tend to accept things that are different than their existing opinion. So I'd almost more use this for people who are fans of science fiction, but are not either video game players, have never played the Halo series, what have you. Like maybe I'd use this for them more so than anyone else. So yeah, at the end of the day, I would say at least give it a chance. I believe at one point they posted some of the episodes on YouTube so you could see it. Otherwise, you could watch clips all over the place. Um, Give it a shot. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Hopefully, if you're a Halo fan, please like think about it. Like really, truly separate this from the game and watch it and tell me what your thoughts are. I will say we had a solid 3 episodes that just felt like straight exposition that didn't really do anything but help build up a world that most of us already knew the fundamentals of how it works. So now that we're kind of getting into that more Halo-y style, what are your thoughts? Once again, this has been Chris, aka Zonproof. Thanks for stopping by.